Hello and welcome back to the Med Spa Growth and Profitability Show. I am joined today by Chantal Lunderville. And Dr. Lunderville runs a home-based aesthetics business that operates across Southern California, the Bay Area, and Denver, Colorado. Her specialties are providing an intimate boutique experience for women and their friends in their homes. It combines concierge medicine with aesthetics such as Botox and fillers. The brand is grounded in female empowerment and supporting one another in feeling great inside and out, no matter what that looks like. Originally from Southern California, but trained at UC San Francisco, her practice with clients and in the digital space combines strong academics with principles of mindfulness, self-care, and an integration with aesthetics to help clients feel supported and safe to experience a variety of treatments in the comfort of their own home. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. It was really kind of an exciting thing because I wanted to hear a little bit more about how you really brought this as an at-home experience and what made you decide to do it. And I know you have a ton of tips for people just starting out. So let's backtrack a little bit first and tell us about your journey. What was your background?
Yeah, so I'm actually very academically trained. I did residency at UCSF in primary care. So that's really my background is primary care and wanting to speak to women about everything that goes into their health. So everything from fitness, diet, mental health, medications. And so this is really what grounded me into wanting to enter this space. So I opened a home concierge and aesthetics practice last year, where I'm able to see clients individually as well as in a group setting. And really the heart of the parties that I give is the presentations. So I curate something for them to experience. So I ask them, hey, what are you most interested in learning about when it comes to skincare and aesthetics and overall wellness? And some presentations that I've given are aesthetics for anti-aging for young professionals, anti-aging and skincare that's specific to the cold climate of Denver, Colorado for women in their 50s and 60s, and also weight loss and how aesthetics and injectables can help women who are trying to lose weight. So I really give a curated presentation for the women that will be there. And it's really a great space outside of the clinic, which can be intimidating sometimes for women to come in on their own. And so they're able to really experience this with their friends. I create a really safe space around, I really want to hear what your experiences are. I want you to share among each other. I want to also learn from you. And then after that, I'm able to see them individually, and I take about 15 to 20 minutes each. And really, it's grounded in concierge because I wanted it to be very focused on how to solve a problem for her or help her reach a goal. Yeah. So, for example, if she says, I really want Botox, and I'm concerned about the skin around right here, and I say, looks like you have rosacea. Why don't we talk about some of the behavioral things you can do, dietary changes? Let me get you a prescription for doxycycline. We'll schedule a follow-up. That could be in person or it can be over FaceTime, whatever works for you. And then we'll give you a little bit of Botox today, schedule a follow-up, and make sure that's working. So really, I didn't want it to be just about injectables. I wanted it to be about how do I provide a service that's grounded in meeting your needs, and then how do services that I offer fit into that. So, yeah.
I love that you decided, or didn't decide, but it came natural to do the mindfulness in every aspect, because so many times we're seeing in the aesthetic world is that quick fix. You get that instant gratification or the gratification that comes a few months later, but really bring through for that stressed young professional that might be aging a little bit earlier, the full spectrum, I guess, of the health, the reducing stress, the diet, things like that definitely play that long-term role in what, how young you're going to look later. So I love that you bring that all together.
Yeah, exactly. And I think women really want to talk about it. They want your opinion. They want your advice. And it's really about what are all the things that we're doing for our health and our skin, and then how do the aesthetics fit into that? And I feel women respond really well to that. They want to have a space that they feel supported in talking about these things.
Absolutely. So, have you found that when you're doing these parties, have you found that some people are a little embarrassed to talk about it with their friends or not as open? Or do you find the opposite when you are all together, they can't stop sharing and they want to do more treatments when they're together?
That's such a great question because at the very beginning, I think it's important how you create the space as a facilitator or the physician. I start with a mindfulness practice, just 30 seconds of deep breathing. And this kind of changes the energy of everyone and they feel a little bit more comfortable. And then through the presentation, I really make it interactive. So I say, what are your favorite night serums? What are your favorite moisturizers? And this really helps women feel so comfortable because they feel they're sharing something and adding value. And you should just see it. It's just supernatural. Everyone's like, oh, I've tried that. Have you done that? And so I think just that in itself helps her feel a lot more comfortable. And then I'm also sharing more information about the injectables and encouraging lots of questions. And I say, please ask me more. You can also ask me in the private space when we do our consultations. And so I do notice, especially with women that are older than me, that are kind of like, who are you? You look so young. What are you going to talk to me about this? What do you know? And I feel like it really transmutes they really feel a lot more trusting afterwards. And it's incredible how just after providing that safe space to ask questions, they're in the individual sessions, they often say, honestly, whatever you want to do, whatever.
So they trust you at that point to make the determination for them or the recommendations for them.
Exactly. So that builds a lot of rapport and they feel a lot safer. And actually providing the parties I found creates my perfect demographic. So I'm really looking for women or men, but women or men that feel a little bit hesitant about what they want to do. They're curious. And oftentimes creating a party, you'll have a hostess who really wants to bring in her friends. And she's usually done it before. And she says, you really need to try this. It's really great. It's intimidating, but trust me, you're going to like it. And so even just by incentivizing the host by saying, you'll get 20% off of a party, and she brings in her friends, you should just see the way that they're able to support each other through it. And then they have such a great time and they're really happy that they got the treatment. So that's really like my perfect client.
Do you see, just as you're saying that, I'm thinking you're going to have one party, they're all going to get their Botox that party, and then 3 months later somebody else is going to host and they're all going to come for the next cycle of the Botox? Is that what ends up happening?
That's exactly happening. So I want to encourage people that really want to get into this space to really think about, your sphere of influence, word of mouth. It's so powerful. Sometimes it would be a little bit slow and I would only have one party that week or one client that week. And I would just really focus on giving him or her the best experience possible, and really centering that experience, because that's really the long-term investment in your business, is that by focusing on their experience, making sure you follow up with them, almost getting obsessive about getting it right, then they tell their friends and they, hey, I had this wonderful experience. I want to host one in my home, 20% off. And aesthetics is a long game. You're really investing in the relationship. And that's why I say it's not just about, this is my price per unit. It's about how do you generate your business based on your menu and if you're discounting, it should be to drive your business. So 20% off for hosting a party. And that really drives business because all those women or men, they're going to say, I really want my friends to experience. Even if they have 2 or 3 people, I say, yeah, let's do it. Let's create an intimate experience for you. What do you want to learn about?
Very cool. Now, were you ever, did you ever do this inside another practice, or was it always at home and at either one-on-one at someone's home or the parties?
Yeah, so in residency, I actually learned how to do it with some of my attendings, and the residents actually, we practiced on each other, and that's how initially I learned. And clinically speaking, it's technically speaking, it's an easy thing, filler and Botox, compared to what I was doing in residency, thoracentesis, joint injections, abscesses, but there's really the art behind it. So technically, I learned, without a doubt, the client relationship, the aesthetic piece of it. So as I learned that the technique in residency, and then after residency, I went to an intense CME, and then I just started putting the word out there. Hey, I'm learning, and don't be afraid to ask your sphere of influence for help. People want to help you. So I asked my mom, hey, I want to give some services to your friends. Can you create a party? And she did. And so really that's how it all started. And it's mainly working moms. My sister-in-law is a working mom, and then young professionals like myself, and then women like my older women like my mom. So it really helped
So
me
you started with your local, well, as you said, the sphere of influence, and so you didn't do any paid advertising or anything like that to get it generated.
No, the only thing I consider is my product, and then my time. I mean, I have my insurance premiums, but that's why it's such a great way for people to start out that are thinking about getting into this space. I think it can feel intimidating. Oh, I need to get a lot of overhead. I need to get a spa, but really, you can actually start seeing clients, and as long as you feel comfortable, just go out there and get your clients, form those relationships, ask people around you, and yeah, your sphere of influence is so important.
Perfect. And just came to my mind, guys, for those of you that are listening, we actually go over the insurance aspect, that what is needed. And it all depends on where you're located too. But in another podcast episode with Jason Coons, we talk about insurance if you are doing the mobile type aesthetic practice. So definitely check that out too. So have you always been an entrepreneur? Did you go to medical school saying, I am going to do parties at home for Botox? Or were you planning on being in a practice somewhere?
Yeah, I've gotten Botox and fillers since I was in my 20s because I had acne and had early signs of aging. So I had already been introduced to this space in terms of the power of what some of these procedures can do, just in terms of confidence and really, engaging with my life and not worrying about my skin. So I was already really interested in that, but I actually didn't think I was going to be an entrepreneur. I went through medical school and college, really focused on public health. So I really wanted to do women's health, focus on access. And I actually thought business was super removed from my mission of service. And then as I went through residency and I graduated, I really wanted to actually get out of the clinic because the clinic is so focused on productivity, which is fine. But for me, the way that I envisioned really taking care of women and integrating aesthetics into wellness, entrepreneurship is the space to build your dreams. So
Absolutely.
that's, yeah, I can't say enough about if you're worried about, I'm not a business person, I'm a medicine person, there is a space for you. And this is a space where you can create whatever you dream of.
Awesome. Now, I have one question, which we touched on it a little bit, but is it something where you said, okay, I'm going to get a few friends together or my mom's friends and see what happens, or I'll just give them some treatments, give them great advice because I want to serve them in that way, and kind of naturally happened into a business? Or did you start doing the at-home parties as a business?
So it actually just started with, all I was focused on was, I know how to do Botox and fillers, so this is my price per unit and my price per syringe. And then I had women who said, well, I want to get a treatment with my friend, so two of us are going to come over. And so then I thought, well, they're kind of asking the same questions about how long does it last? What do I have to do for aftercare? And I wanted to talk about skincare, how you need to take care of your skin, as well as getting these procedures. And I thought, well, why don't I just do a presentation and then I can introduce the products and talk about all the things that actually go into taking care of your skin in addition to this. And then the way that I saw the women respond, I thought, this is my business. This is my niche. And so that's really how it started. And so that the presentations and creating that space is really the heart of my business.
And that's really what differentiates you from most of the people that are trying to do this on their own. They're having the parties, but they're coming in, they're having, some refreshments, and then they're injecting and going around the room, and then it's kind of over. So the fact that you bring in that additional piece and you're adding real value and that long-term value and building that relationship is really some of the key takeaways that everybody listening or watching really need to pay attention to. My question for you, because in my mind, and everybody that is watching knows this, it's always about that bigger vision for the business. So And while you're describing this and you're doing most of the work, to me in my head, I'm like, okay, she needs to be able to scale this. I see how she can scale this. And I have ideas, but have you thought about how you can scale this with the way that your business is set up now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think about it all the time because I had a business meeting with someone who said, would you like to get connected to A-list clients? Maybe I can do that for you. And I thought, no, I want to actually be with regular women and I want to make them feel like celebrities. That's my dream. So eventually I would like to have a med spa in NorCal, SoCal, Denver that's really centered on wellness. But I want to keep running the concierge practice out of it. And because I think it's such a special space for women to get introduced, to get their services, and to just support women on their path. So hopefully I can hire other injectors who have a similar purpose and see that larger mission that can continue the work as well.
Absolutely. And on a side note, what comes to my mind is a certification program that you would create for these other people that want to they hear you today and get inspired and like, hey, can we run your model? And you already have the workshops planned out for them, things like that. So just keep that in mind in the future. So I love that. I definitely want to make sure that everybody listening know that there's only one of you and you can only scale it so big if it's going to be you. But there is a way to make sure that you still have that unique touch and you're the one still impacting their lives, although you're not the one necessarily delivering those services later. But I'm extremely amazed at how far you've grown this in the last year, and that's why I wanted you on this show. So tell us, looking back on the last year or so when you first started, what are some of the key lessons that you wish you would have known when you first started?
Oh, that's such a great question. There's so many.
I know it's a loaded question.
So many. So one of the biggest ones would be, again, going back to you get trained, you know what you're doing, I'm so great, I know this technique, I know how to help women, but really getting the clients can be slow in the beginning. And so how do you build in that consistency of staying excited and staying energized when it's slow? And so those are the times when it's slow, you still need to lean in and invest in some way. So if you have, like I said, a week without clients, go to conferences, go to networking events, do your reading, read more case studies, talk to other injectors, form your network, because all of that investment is contributing to your community in the other injectors in your space, even just down to supporting them digitally, commenting on their photos and saying, this is amazing. I think this is something I want to deliver to my followers as well, doing a video like this. So really shifting into a mindset of contribution as opposed to, oh, I'm not getting the return on the money that I spent. And for me, it's all my personal money. So it was like, oh, I need to book clients because I need to bring the money in. But it's like, no, just shift into contribution and how you're contributing to people in your space, reading so that clients trust you and you're a great wealth of information, build your referral network. If you don't know, if you don't provide a service, you don't know how to, figure out how to, or refer them to someone that you really trust, because that's a huge part of your value. So the times that it's slow, there's still ways to be consistent and lean in and invest in your business.
And I love that you mentioned support the other influencers or the other people in the business, because I want to say in this, especially in this industry, but truthfully, it's in every industry. People are sitting back and they might like a competitor's comment or post, or just be kind of stalking them to see what they're up to, but really more so envious and almost like, oh, why are they doing that and not me? But when you're coming from a place of wow, this is amazing, thank you for sharing this, I cannot wait to share this information with my tribe or my clients, that's a totally different experience, not only for you and the way you're going to feel, but the energy that you're putting out towards that other person, and then you're bringing it back to your community, which is amazing. So thank you for sharing that piece, because I think that's so important that everybody is missing out, because even if the person that you comment on, they don't really, if they don't really respond, or there's not a great response, it's still out there saying, wow, in their head, Chantel said this was great. Well, maybe when it comes back around and I need a guest on a podcast, or I need somebody, if I'm coming to San Francisco and I want to hook up with some people and have drinks or something, Chantel's the person to go to. So it just also plants a seed for a future relationship in business. So thank you so much.
I think there's something to be said about, I think brand has a negative connotation, but you really need to live your brand and get clear about why your company exists. So for me, my company exists to promote self-love, to just support women on their path of whatever that looks like. And so I really have to live that day to day and support other women in this space, other men, entrepreneurs, and things like that. So that's something I would encourage anyone thinking about getting into this space or entrepreneurship is, are you living your brand every day? Is that authentic? And are you very clear about why your company exists for a larger purpose?
I love that. And that's actually a key thing that almost every speaker in the industry that we've had on has been saying. Run out of the house and are you looking a mess? You're not looking like your brand, and that's the time when you're going to run into somebody. So always, you are your brand. That's all there is to it. And especially in the space today, no one's marketing their business. And if you're marketing your business, you're doing the wrong thing and you're not going to really get the eyes on you. So although you have a business name, you're ultimately marketing yourself and becoming the influencer. You want to be that go-to person where they think that there's absolutely no other choice. It's just you. So awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Now, you mentioned there were some times when you were slow and what to do when you're slow, but in the last year, have you ever felt like throwing in the towel and is this really what I should be doing? Did you ever doubt yourself?
Definitely. I think the hardest moments for me is when I can't make a client happy. I think those, as I've been talking about, the kind of the heart of my business. So when I haven't been able to do that, and I think that's been the hardest. But I think the lesson that I learned is that you're never going to be able to make everybody happy all of the time. And so I think for anyone listening out there who's thinking about doing it or has ever had a really tough moment with this, just know that it's impossible. And I think the hardest moments can also be those times of just integrating more data. So, okay, this person didn't like, maybe a service that I did, or they didn't want to follow up with me. What could I have done in the consultation space to have assessed that? Was it preventable? And so lean into that harder, even though it's uncomfortable. If a picture doesn't get a lot of likes on Instagram, or, something wasn't very popular, take all that data just as much as you take the data from, oh, this picture was really popular, it was shared a lot, I got a lot of feedback or engagement from this. They're both as valuable. I actually think the failures are probably more valuable for you to integrate.
Yeah, very good. And for those times when you did doubt yourself or a client wasn't satisfied, what did you do to get yourself back in the space, or back in the headspace to be like, okay, let's move on now? Other than obviously reviewing the data, what did you do to motivate yourself to keep going?
I think that's why being clear on why you exist is so important, because it's going to help during those times where, oh, I'm so successful, I have so much to do, I need to triage. And especially during the times where I say, I couldn't make her happy, that was really tough on me, I lost a client. But you know what? I know that I've had lots of clients that absolutely love me. I'm friends with them. It's not just they're my client. We're kind of in a family. And I just try to focus on the bigger message. And I say, I'm going to incorporate this in order to help my next client. I focus on the next client and the existing clients, because they're the ones that really, aligned with what I'm doing.
I love it. And most successful entrepreneurs, they have a daily routine. And it's something that we've seen over and over again. Whether it's waking up in the morning and doing a set thing, or it's just a set ritual or mindfulness practice. Do you have any daily routines that you could share with us?
Yeah, I love rituals. I think they're so important. I'm generally an anxious person. I have 1,000 thoughts at any given time. Type A, a lot of us in medicine and business are. So when I wake up, I generally wake up around 7 around the same time, and then I do a meditation for 5 to 10 minutes. I really try to slow my breathing down, and I really give myself that first hour of just slowing down, and that kind of sets my energy for the day. So that when I do let myself ramp up, get excited, get engaged with what I'm doing that day, it's kind of a more focused energy. So grounding practices like meditation are important. And then I spend at least, like I said, 2 to 3 hours a day reading, going on forums. I have a text thread with other injectors, and we give each other articles, we give each other feedback. So that's a built-in consistency that I have to do every day too.
Very cool. So before we go, is there any other tips that you want to share with, and this is geared, I guess, towards, it could be two different audiences here. Somebody that's thinking about going out on their own and wants to just start with a low overhead, or possibly somebody that has a successful practice but wants to incorporate the at-home more concierge to their practice.
That's a great question. I would say, I think for people specifically, I think one of the biggest lessons I learned coming out of academic medicine, or for anyone who is in that space, physicians, RNs, expand your social network, because people in medicine tend to be super risk averse. So I had a lot of people telling me, why are you doing this? You're done with residency, you have all this job security and good money. And so I had to expand my network of people that can help me tolerate that risk. Even though I don't have I have no overhead or anything like that, but still it's a risk to go out on your own. And I think most people have a vision of doing that. But people in medicine will always have a secure job, will always have a backup plan. But you're never going to get back those years of experience that you went out on your own and you tried it. Maybe you failed, but that is all amazing experience that, you're not going to get working for someone else. So I just encourage people to, you're going to work hard in medicine no matter what. If you're really focusing on your patients, it's a tough industry. But if you have a dream of doing it on your own, you're never going to get back that time. So just do it. Awesome. And then for people that are thinking about adding this into their space, I think really just focus on the experience that you want to provide. I think as long as that is a key focus of what you're doing, that will really drive what you're providing and getting into that space.
Great advice. So Chantal, thank you so much for joining us. And if people want to learn more about you, or if somebody listening wants to have a party with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so they can look at my handle at Elevate Spa Services. And what I'm really trying to do is drive Instagram to a website. So you'll be able to find my website on there. And and then you can also see me personally. You can have a link to my account, but I love getting DMs. I love engaging with my followers. That's another thing that I wanted to mention. Don't focus on the number of followers. Focus on how engaged your followers are, how you're really meeting their needs, and loyal ones that are messaging you, ones that they're probably clients. That's really who you want to focus on rather than the number. So you can always hit me up on there.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us, and I cannot wait to meet you in person.
Yes, thank you, April. So nice to meet you.